Alright, biology students, what is up? I'm here to help you better understand why we use ecology, how it's applied in the real world, and just basically why do we even need this fancy thing called ecology. So, ecology. Let me get the pen here, get the right color, there we go. What is ecology? Okay, eco meaning currency, so we're looking at something, the study of currency. We're studying, obviously, the balances of life. How many animals are in this population? How is this population going extinct? Is there population migrating in? Is there population, immigrating and emigrating? All these things go into ecology and they look at it. But ecology is the study of interactions of living organisms in their environment. All right. Now, when I say interaction or interactions, what can that mean? That can mean like, predator-prey relationships. Can mean just simple survival. Could mean reproduction. And it can even mean simple genetics. Mutations going on in populations. So there's all types of different interactions, and these are just a few examples, and you can probably give me a lot more. But these are just some of the examples. Now, obviously, in their environment, they're probably talking about an ecosystem, okay? An ecosystem. You've probably heard of that. Now, once again, eco meaning currency, and obviously a system of currency, okay? So ecosystem is, now if we're talking about currency, we need to talk about everything in an environment. So how about all the living and non-living organisms in an environment? ENV. All right, so there's a good definition of ecology and ecosystem. Now, keep in mind here, I said living and non-living. So instead of saying living and non-living, we're going to try to increase our biological vocabulary, okay? And so instead of saying living and non-living, I want you guys to say biotic and abiotic, okay? And those mean the same thing. Bio, B-I-O, is a prefix for meaning for life. And bio over here means life again. But the letter A comes before it, and that means without. So biotic is life and abiotic is without life. So all the living and non-living organisms in an environment, all right? So obviously biotic is pretty easy. You can name some of the things that are, biotic examples, plants, animals, and of course, never forget bacteria. Bacteria can affect an ecosystem. I mean, how did the Black Plague affect Europe? Okay, so never forget about that. The abiotic ones, some of them are a little harder to think of. Think of some abiotic factors, some non-living things. We could have, the type of rain or water, precipitation. You could have temperature. Obviously, alligators are not living up north because they can't survive the winter. So temperature can affect the ecosystem. Temperature also can affect migrational patterns of a lot of animals. How many people know about the Canadian goose and how it flies down every winter to, the Midwest? That's because it gets cold up in Canada. So migration patterns also with like butterflies. So water, temperature, wind, pH, obviously pH measures how acidic or how basic something is, so that can affect the organisms living in that system, okay? So those are just some examples there. If we're talking about plants, we could also talk about sunlight. Competition for sunlight. All right, so one thing that these biologists do is they go out and they collect data. And for example, if you're a hunter out there, if you get your hunting license, you can only take so many does and so many bucks per year. Well, why is that? That's because someone goes out and does analysis of the population. Okay, and typically their graphs always look like this. They have time on the x-axis, and they have the population number. Population number. So how many there are. And they'll look, and they'll see that from these year intervals, okay, you know, the population was here, then it was here, then it was here, and maybe it was here, and then maybe it was here, and then maybe it was there, and maybe then it was there. So what could you tell me, though, about this population of animal X? Well, obviously it is decreasing. The population of it is going down, and you can see that the numbers are almost at zero. Of course, if it hits zero, it goes extinct. So these are what they're looking at. They're going to make sure that certain animals are not going to be going extinct due to over-harvesting or just accidental. They look at migratory patterns for sharks to make sure that the numbers are always reproducing. Some other examples that they can give you on tests. They can, they love to do pictures. Here's another picture of time and population number again. And O for number. And of course they can put their different animals up here. Here's the blue feathered bird, the pink feathered bird, and then the yellow feathered bird. And they could give you a question like, for example, which feathered bird color has the greatest chance for survival? All right, and you can see here, greatest chance for survival. So obviously we need to look at something that is not declining because we want to survive. Our population number wants to increase. And of course, you can see here that the blue line, or the blue feathered bird, is increasing its population number, where the pinkish purple one is decreasing, and the yellow one, we like to call that as stabilized. Stabilized, it's not going up, it's not going down, it's just flat. So obviously, the blue feathered bird has a greatest chance of survival. They could also throw genetic questions into this. For example, which allele for bird feather color is having a negative effect? And of course, a negative effect means it should be going down. Allele means what type of it is. So is it a blue, yellow, or purple pinkish color? And allele is just telling you the specific trait. So that's how they can tie genetics into this. All right, let's see what else we can add to this before we go. Let's talk about invasive species. So they could have some data up here of a population of fish in an ecosystem. Okay. So again, we have time and the population number. So we can say there was a population of this, and then let's say we have a species move in. It's an invasive species. Okay. Looking at this graph, if the invasive species is yellow, invasive species. And whenever we're talking about a species that always lives there, that is the native species. All right. So I could ask you a question: Does or is the invasive species having an effect on the native species. And so you would see here that when they start to intersect right here, you can see that the invasive species is still increasing, but now the native species is decreasing. So yes, the invasive species is having an effect on the native species, and possibly that's when humans need to step in and to intervene. Alright guys, that's a short clip for today. I'm hoping that helps you out understanding the importance of populations and studying ecology and studying ecosystem. It helps protect animals from going extinct. It helps seeing animals that are thriving and surviving, and it just looks at how overall things are doing for that ecosystem that we are studying. Do not forget that an ecosystem can be as small as a puddle of water, because we cannot forget about those bacteria. I hope you found this helpful, and have a good day.